Hello, it's Charlotte's sister C. Farrell, host of Powered by Age, Canada's longest-running senior-led podcast that invites you to do what you love.
This podcast is for you if you love writing or telling stories, if you love sharing poetry or doing interviews.
This podcast is for you if you love working on ways to create age-friendly cities.
This podcast is for you if you love learning how to tame technology and get more out of virtual events, if you love finding more ways to share your heritage or traditions.
If you love any of these things, you can go beyond listening and join our weekly podcast group. Simply email pbaafc@gmail.com and put your name in the subject line. Powered by Age is sponsored by the Government of Canada, New Horizons Grant, the 411 Senior Center Society, and G&F Financial Group. Good afternoon and welcome to Powered by Age, Canada's longest-running senior-led podcast. We are today celebrating the first Thursday of Black History Month. It's also a month where many people are looking forward to the end of snow. And so today you are going to be hearing special presentations. We will be updating and also welcoming everyone to join us to write or do an interviews. One of our goals is to have the largest reservoir of interviews of older people by other older people, and not the people that just get mentioned on the main news, but everyone knows someone that they have found interesting, that's been kind to them, that made a difference in their life. And so when you look on our Powered by Age website, you'll see a thing called spins. So we're encouraging anyone who's listening today, you can leave a message on our poweredbyage.com website that you're interested in participating in this live Zoom and that you're interested in setting up a time to record, make a recording of someone. So one of the things that I do with the people that are on first, I have them introduce themselves. I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Charlotte, Sister C. Farrell, and I'm the host and coordinator. And I want to acknowledge that our work takes place on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And so just starting in the time frame or order that people came in, we'll have Neill introduce himself.
Hi, my name's Neall Ryon. I'm a retired old guy, and there's my book, From the Other Side.ca. There's some free poems on From the Other Side, one word.ca. And I write poetry that's kind of talks about life and spirituality and a look at life from an advanced age, because this month is my birthday. This month.
Yes, and I'll just say, I put in our meeting notes that we're going to be wishing Neill happy birthday because I thought it was 2/3/22, and it's actually the 23rd. So since the 3rd occurs, there will be some people who may have some maybe special poetry or music or something to you for your birthday today, although it's not until the 23rd.
Well, interesting. Yesterday was 2/2022, and I'm gonna be birthday on the 2/23rd, 2022. So I've got lots of twos in my life right now.
Okay, I think Lesley joined next.
So I'm Lesley Hebert from New Westminster. I teach English as a second language online, and I write short stories and poetry. And when I signed on today, the first thing I did was wish Neil happy birthday, and then he said, "It's not my birthday today."
I told Charlotte I make out like a bandit. I get a happy birthday on the 3rd, and I get another one on the 23rd. So there we go.
It's all good. Okay.
Scott was the next one.
Scott.
Yeah, so my name is Scott Reester. I work for Kitsilano House in the I'm kind of split between two roles there. Part of it is working with the Better at Home program. I've got some construction going on outside, so hopefully that doesn't drown me out too much. So the Better at Home program is a program that's funded by United Way and run across the city through the facilitated by the various neighborhood houses. And its goal is to help seniors to maintain independent living by providing housekeeping, transportation through volunteers, and grocery shopping through volunteers. So I help to administer that. And then I also spend 2 days a week at a BC housing property providing food security programs there. And that's also through Kitsilano House. So I think that's why I was emailed about the podcast. I didn't really know much about it. So this is my first time joining in. So it's nice to learn about it and meet you all. And thanks for having me.
You joined us because I get a lot of calls about what is the Better at Home or what is the 211. So I'm going to ask you more questions about that. Dr. Ramona?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Ramona Srinivasan, a retired history professor from Mumbai University and just 1 year old in Vancouver. So I'm very happy to be with all of you on this Powered by 8 podcast because I find it very inspiring hearing about all the things that you write about, especially Neill and his poems, Lesley with her memoir, and Charlotte with an ongoing series of various articles. So happy to be here. Happy to meet you, Scott.
Dr. Ramona has a special song. Since we're doing Attitude, your non-birthday today, Neil, Dr. Ramona has something special that she's going to sing.
Well, this is also the first full day of the Chinese New Year. So Gong Hei Fat Choi.
You know, one of the television stations had 10 different people say that, and they all said it differently. So, Gong Hei Fat Choi.
Yeah, Gong Hei Fat Choi, Lai Tsi Ta Loi, which means give me the red envelope. That means give me the money.
Yeah. Look, I have one right here.
Yes,
the red envelope.
Yes.
This is it. It's got money in it. I don't know, something's written here. Is that what you said?
Oh, I can't read the Chinese. I can speak it beautifully, but I cannot read it. Yeah. Even though that thing on the wall behind me is in Chinese.
Okay.
The thing, and this is happiness, and each symbol is a different version of the word happiness as the 5,000 years of Chinese writing goes through. So I've got 5,000 years of happiness on the wall behind me. So
wow.
And Gong Hei Fat Choi is Cantonese, and the Mandarin is Sun Ning Kuai Lo. So I speak pretty good Chinese thanks to my lady, who is still in China, by the way, and is now out of quarantine. She was in quarantine for a month and a half. 29 days of January and 15 days of December. So, but I understand she's going to be home for my birthday. So thank you, God.
Okay, Scott, since you might have to leave us early, could you tell people a little bit more about the Better at Home, and is that connected in any way to the 211?
Yeah, that's a good question. So 211 provides sort of a funnel. So if you phone 211, they can refer you to the relevant Better at Home provider. So because there's different catchment areas throughout the city. So with Kitsilano House, we handle from Granville Street and west of Granville Street and north of King Ed to the water. So it's basically from Granville Street to UBC and from King Ed north to the water. And then there's different neighborhood houses that handle different areas of the city. So you have the Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House, Jewish Family Services, Gordon House, I think, is downtown. So there's a few other neighborhood houses that all administer the Better at Home program. And if you phone 211, they'll connect you with the relevant provider. Different providers will provide the programs differently because they get different, they have different teams, they get different funding. So the program will vary, from neighborhood house to neighborhood house. So I can speak for how Kids House supplies it. But if you take advantage of the program through a different provider, that it might sound a little different than what I described. So we have housekeeping is kind of the main thing. We have Kids House staff that provide housekeeping, and it's on a sliding scale. So there is subsidized housekeeping available if people qualify based on their income. And the transportation is also on a sliding scale, so that can be subsidized as well. With the transportation, we do need a week notice in order to arrange rides with our volunteers because it's with volunteers, it can take a bit of time to make the arrangements and find somebody that's available. So it's not, good for last minute rides, but it's good for doctor's appointments and, things that are booked a few weeks in advance. What else? The housekeeping services are 2 hours, and the full price is $60 for the 2 hour service. And people can get it's 2 hours minimum, but longer services can be arranged as well. And yeah, they're all with the goal of helping seniors maintain independent living in their own homes. So by the idea is that by helping them out with housekeeping, it can help out a lot of our seniors with mobility issues. And, there's maybe things that they're not able to do themselves, but that's the only barrier to them living at home. So it can be quite helpful for a lot of people.
A lot of people ask me about grocery shopping. Do they take people grocery shopping or do shopping for people?
With the grocery shopping program right now, everything is kind of under enhanced COVID protocols right now. So with grocery shopping, and actually I should mention that I started in October, so it was while enhanced COVID protocols were in place already. So I'm not as aware of how things operated beforehand. But right now, how it works is we would connect a volunteer with the senior, and the participant has to get their own gift card. So they would get a gift card for the grocery store that they prefer to use. So it's just like a plastic card that they can load up with all the funds they want. But some stores have digital cards that you can just share with email. And so however they have the card, they would give it to the volunteer along with their list and their reusable shopping bags. So the volunteer would come and pick up the gift card, pick up the bags and their list, and then go and do the shopping and bring it back to their place. So it's usually just the volunteer doing it on their own, not accompanying the person to the grocery store.
Scott, do you know if they have similar programs in Burnaby and New Westminster?
Yeah, I know. I think they do. I forget who the provider is. There is a catchment area. I think if you go to the Better at Home website, it has all the different catchment areas. So you're able to click on your area and see who's the provider. Yeah, I can't remember if New West and Burnaby do have it or not. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. Tell us the exact wording for the Better at Home website.
I think it's just betterathome.ca.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find out. Yes. Okay. And so let's see what it shows up for. Yeah. So in Burnaby, the provider that shows up is Citizen Support Services, City of Burnaby. And so, yes, it is betterathome.ca. With New West, the provider that shows up is Senior Services Society of BC.
And do people have to prove any type of income? Is there a means test or a questionnaire to designate whether you can be provided with these services?
Yeah, so with grocery shopping, it's a lot more simple. We don't need to do what we call a full intake. With grocery shopping, mainly we want to determine that they don't have any other means they don't have any other way of getting groceries. We try to reserve the program for people that are really in need. So we try to encourage people to use delivery services if they can, or, get friends and family to provide the groceries if they can. And so just to reserve our program for people that are, really isolated and in need, because it is relying on volunteers. So that's the main screening thing for the grocery shopping. With housekeeping and transportation, we do ask for the person's total income from their previous tax return, and that's so that we can place them on the sliding scale to determine if they qualify for a subsidized service or not. The subsidized services are always subject to availability because it does, we're working with a limited budget, so there's only so many subsidized slots that we can provide. And I should mention too that the subsidized services would only qualify for one service every 2 months. So if somebody did qualify and received a full subsidy, they would get a free service 1 month. And if they wanted additional services, they would have to pay full cost for any of those services. So if they went every month, they would get a subsidized service month 1, they would pay $60 for month 2, and then they'd get a subsidized service on month 3, and it would repeat that way.
I see. That's another reason for needing to get your income tax done. We're going to be having Maggie, the accountant for the 411 Center, in a couple of weeks, telling people what you need to bring to get the free income tax service, and then understanding that the report that you get at the end, that's something that you can show to providers like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Qualify. Does anyone else have any questions for Scott? I just know a lot of people have said that they were really happy to be able to get the house cleaning at that rate, because people have charged, $100, $200 a day, and it's just, been a real burden. And then with the downsizing, or I think some people live in facilities where they have an inspection. So being able to get someone to help them with the house cleaning to get ready for an inspection is good. So thank you for that. And one other question, someone that was involved with this before was doing a meal program. Do you all do a meal program, or do you have a communal meals?
So there may be meal programs provided by some of the neighborhood houses. We were providing a frozen meal program where we had a volunteer chef that was actually making meals at Kit's house, and they'd be frozen and delivered to people in the community. I can't remember if the budget ran out or if the volunteer had to stop doing it, but we're not running that program right now. But we may be able to restart that if we get more funding once the next budget arrives. So right now we are not, but there are a few. I think Jewish Family Services still has a food donation program that they operate, and so some of the others might as well. And to your last point, I should clarify too that the housekeeping is just light housekeeping, so it wouldn't if we have people that have like issues with hoarding where they need to like do a major cleaning service and get rid of a lot of stuff. That's beyond the scope of the program. It's just oriented towards light housekeeping. But it's good if, yeah. One other thing I just remembered is there was United Way was doing a transportation survey recently. I'm not sure if you heard about that, but I can share the link in the chat. And it was all about transportation for seniors specifically regarding our aging population, and more people are going to be, hanging up their keys for good and determining what, if that's going to put a huge strain on our public transit system and if it's up to the task. So that made me realize that that's kind of a potential, brewing issue. But they're hoping to use this survey to kind of, I think, work out policy and maybe figure out a better way of moving forward.
Yeah, I took part in that survey, and I think one of the disconnects is what it costs. When people, they are definitely encouraging people to hang up their keys and stop driving sooner, but the cost of having a delivery service, for example, with one popular delivery service, there's $3.99 for them to just put you in the program, and then there's a tax on that, and then there's a separate fee or suggested tip to the driver. So it could easily cost you, $10 on top of the grocery prices. And so I think encouraging, when you talk about how do you affect policy within this program, there have been people that have been members of council or even some members of the legislature, like Don Davies, have visited us and said, writing letters. These are things that those of us who can read, write, have a computer, can write letters saying we really need to look more closely at transportation for seniors. The cost of the handy dart has gone down, but they don't help you necessarily get groceries into the house. So that's a gap area that, to supplement the survey, it's good for people to be involved. This show sometimes airs in my radio show, which is speak up, listen up, act upon what you've heard. So I think really giving that feedback that there is really a need for a lot of people to have a meal delivered to them at home. One person that we talked with was a chef, talked about that was a good way to introduce fruits and vegetables, a wide range of fruits and vegetables, because it's hard, somebody that might have limited dexterity to peel rutabaga, peel potatoes, etc., but to come to a place where there are a variety of vegetables already cooked and made into something edible. So just advocacy gives us ideas of things that we might talk about or encourage as the new budget is being made.
Yeah, thank you. That reminds me as well of there was another meal delivery service that just started in Vancouver called Heart to Home. And it's a for-profit service, but they're frozen meals, and it has free delivery, and that covers all of Vancouver, I think, into Richmond. But it seemed like a good service. I can share the link to that too. And my wife and I have been using Fresh Prep, which is one of those meal kit services, and that's been really good. And I feel like it would be something that, a lot of people living independently would enjoy using, because you still do the cooking, and they deliver the prepped ingredients. So like all the potatoes have been, and the onions have been chopped already, and they're just in a little bag ready to go. And it's got us trying like different types of meals that we would usually cook, and like Vietnamese, or I just had a lamb biryani leftover from the other night, and it was quite tasty.
Yeah, I've got an 80-year-old friend that's been using the meal kit service, and she finds that one meal is actually enough for 2 meals for her.
Yeah.
And she's really happy with the selection and the price. She says it's pretty reasonable. So.
Yeah, with the price of groceries right now, it's been quite affordable, and we almost always get leftovers from it.
And the other things that go into grocery shopping, the mobility and having to stand in line, or sometimes getting the bag from the vegetable out, the bag won't come loose. And so having all that done, I had wondered about the price. So maybe at some point we might be able to have people come on from 3 different ones that can show what's in the box and talk about the pricing. So while we aren't promoting them, at least we can help people to have a better understanding of what you get with those. Mm-hmm. The box.
I think Fresh Prep is the only local one. I think all the others are either out of Ontario or Quebec or the States.
Okay, well, thank you for that information. And we look forward if you maybe can send me an email that has the addresses for the different neighborhood houses, so that we can invite them again to participate in the podcast and do stories. Sometimes one will have something different from the other, and it's really great for people to know what can you do, because with so many things being shut down, to know where people can go. There's some places that are still having live entertainment. Some people are having a $3 fee that people can pay for their programs. So it's good to listen around, and it's great that you came and didn't just see our message, but turned up, and we welcome you to keep coming.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and
I was wondering, Scott, if you could put the links in the chat for the Heart to Home service and perhaps Fresh Prep.
Sure. And I should also mention that we have our seniors lunch starting up on February 15th. So that takes place every Tuesday, I think. And we usually get a meal from White Spot, but sometimes it's from other providers. And that takes place at Kit's house. That's an in-person meal.
So do people have to be a member of Kit's house?
I believe so. Yeah, you do have to be a member for that. It's $10 a year for membership.
Well, that's very reasonable. Okay.
And I think the meals it's like $5 or $6 for the meal, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Thanks for letting me chat.
Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning, this is the first Thursday of Black History Month, and since there's a daily quote that I'm going to share, and I'll share them quickly for the first 3 days since we're at day 3. The first one is, Black history isn't a separate history. This is all of our history. This is North American history, and we need to understand that. And that quote is from Karen Parsons, writer, actor, and lead in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that aired in 2014. The second one is, you are growing into consciousness. And my wish for you is that you feel no need to constrict yourself to make other people comfortable. And that's from Ta-Nehisi Coates, writer of Between the World and Me in 2015. And the third is, logic is a seductive excuse for setting low expectations. And that was by the awesome politician Stacey Abrams, the activist and minority leader of the House, author of How to Lead from the Outside and Make Real Change. And she was the person responsible for getting over 800,000 people registered to vote in Georgia. And from the poetry line, there's a form of, before we were doing a lot of talking, I have something to show you that involves singing, but I know Dr. Ramona has a song that she is going to sing. So while I'm activating my screen share, would you like to sing your song now?
Yeah, just give me a moment. I have to bring up the words.
Okay. I'm going to click the magic screen share button. So again, this is a pre-birthday song for you, Neill. So
so I'm ready, and it's for all of us. I'm dedicating it especially to Neill because of his birthday month. And very strange thing, Neill, I have to share that 23rd February is actually my older brother's birthday as well, Jerry Lobo, and he's in Bombay. So here's a song This is Young at Heart, sung by Frank Sinatra. Hopefully I can do justice to it. Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard, you will find, to be narrow of mind. If you're young at heart, you can go to extremes with impossible schemes. You can laugh when your dreams fall apart at the seams, and life gets more exciting with each passing day. And love is either in your heart or on its way. Don't you know that it's worth every treasure on earth to be young at heart? For as rich as you are, it's much better by far to be young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part: you had a head start if you are among the very young at heart. Thank you.
I love that.
Awesome. So brave. Thank you, Ramona.
And you're braver than most. You're brave to sing a cappella and to just show your great joy and happiness. Every week you bring us some type of singing or music. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Well, my poem today is going to respond to your song. Thank you.
Okay, the sleeping car porters. For Canada in particular, the way that we came to have a Black History Month in Canada was that the sleeping car porters going down from Canada into the United States observed that from 1926, there was a Black History Week. And so they wrote the Ontario Black History Society and asked them if they would work on getting Black History Month started in Canada. The actual year that Black History Month started in the States was 1926, which was my mother's birthday year. And as a child, her parents had kept clippings and so forth because the Carter G. Woodson, who started the holiday, was interested in having teachers. He got teachers at first to have a week that they would put up the bulletin boards, that they would put up information about Black history. And then he appealed to the president, he appealed to Congress to get the holiday started. And the reason it was February, a lot of times people say, oh, they gave us the shortest month. But he picked and asked for February because it was the birth month of both President Lincoln, and it was also the birth month of the abolitionist Frederick Douglass. He was an anti-slavery activist, an academic, but also a fighter, someone that was out on the grounds being at risk of being lynched for the meetings that he had around anti-slavery. So both Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, who's the 16th president of the United States, the person who was president during the Civil War, and wrote the Emancipation Proclamation that finally ended slavery in the United States. So, as Woodson's idea began as a one-week celebration, it eventually became this longer event called Black Heritage Month in the United States in 1976. And some other countries and sometimes other places in Canada, rather than saying Black History Month, they call it Black Heritage Month. And every year there is a different theme for Black History Month. And 2022, the theme is February and Forever, celebrating Black history today and every day. But in Canada, there was a points-based system that limited immigration of Black people into Canada. And 1967 was the point where they changed and they judged individuals based on their education, their occupational skills, etc., instead of their race. And those who receive 50 points or more out of 100 could immigrate to Canada regardless of their race, regional or origin, or their ethnicity. In 1971, the Canadian multiculturalism policy was implemented by the Liberal government over the former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, and the objective of it was to maintain the educational and cultural freedom of different people in Canada. So we have different settlement patterns for Black Canadians. Most Black Canadians live in urban areas in Canada. According to the 2016 census, 94.3% in Canada lived in the country's metropolitan areas, CMAs. Toronto had the largest population, and particularly largest population of people who arrived from the Caribbean in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Ontario is home to 52% of the total Black population in Canada. Province of Quebec has the second largest population of Black people in Canada at 26%, and Quebec's population has more than doubled between 1996 and 2016. A thing that the Raptors, Toronto's basketball team, acknowledged is that basketball teams, particularly the Raptors, have begun to recruit and involve more Black players from Montreal. At one point, they were not as included, not as welcome, but now there's even a club of people basketball players from Montreal, who are now in the NBA. Of all the Atlantic provinces, Nova Scotia has the largest population of Black people. It has a long history of Black immigration dating back to the arrival of the Black Loyalists. There was a point in the 1700s where the British promised slaves who fought for the British against the colonists that they would be given a landing, safe passage. Actually, they told them they were going to be going to Liberia. But following the American Revolution, many Black Canadians living in Nova Scotia can trace their roots back to the Black Loyalists, the Black refugees from the War of 1812. Coming to our own province, Black population of British Columbia almost doubled between 1996 and 2016. However, it's increasing at a slower pace than in the other provinces. Although Black people have immigrated to British Columbia from different countries, many can trace their roots back to, and this was surprising for me last year, from Black Californians. There were 600 Black Californians who came across to British Columbia, made their way to Salt Spring Island and the city of Victoria, and had a number of businesses there. And they were thriving until with the gold rush. So many people came in from other places. They also had the notion, some of them left and went back to the States with the notion that they would be free, and found that they were discriminated against. But there are some landmarks that people are now coming to Vancouver so they can go over to Victoria and see these early settlements. So I'm going to stop my sharing at that particular space. And we ask if anyone might have if they've done any research and have any questions or Black history facts that they found.
Well, I have a book of poetry written by Wayde Compton. I don't know if you know Wayde Compton. It's called 49th Parallel Psalm. And in that book, he's a Black BC poet. And in that book, I discovered that James Douglass, our founder, was a mixed race.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Did you have any of his poetry, or where could people find this poetry again?
It's called 49th Parallel Psalm. Actually, I should grab the book and see if I can find something in it. So talk among yourselves. I'll come back to this later.
My friend, my best friend when I was in my 70s or so was a Black man, and his father was a Black porter out of Montreal. Marshall Gaskin. So, and he was still working. His father was still working when Marshall and I were hanging out together.
Oh, let's see. You have to read it because those of us who are listening can't see the title.
Yeah, that was just a signal to you, Charlotte, that I found something. Okay. This is a book of poetry called 49th Parallel Psalm, written by Wayde Compton. And it says on the back, Compton's our own historian arrived at last. If you don't know the 150-year story of Black folks in British Columbia, or even if you do, you haven't heard the last of it. History and music are more than time, but they need it, and Compton is a timely arrival. Wayde Compton's insightful examination of the construction of the African-Canadian subject has generated poetry of eclectic rhythms. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the blurb from the back, but I'd like to read you this poem, which came as an eye-opener to me. The first governor of the colonies of British Columbia and Vancouver Island, the chief factor of the Hudson's Bay Company on the West Coast, spring of 1858, he encouraged Blacks from California to come north, just in time to fill the labor shortage in BC. The gold rush was about to cause. He coolly withdrew support for them upon their arrival. Father Scottish, mother from British Guyana, he never confirmed nor denied the rumor that he was part. Oh, James Douglass, our own quadroon Moses, should I place a violet on your grave or hawk a little spit for your betraying waves? Oh, white man, black when out of favor, our fates braided like rutting snakes, the cabal that is negritude, the counter-conspiracy to make a black Northwest be. Oh, James Douglass, you held the keys like a lesser Legba, laughing, shuffling passports, passing in your black and white archival stance, decked nonetheless in what I dream as Garvey-like imperial plumage. Company man on the winning team, backing the right horse, the best Telegony, 1,858 years from Christ, in the wilderness, far from home, and the Caribbean, and ancient Rome. Britannia rules, the roost and waves, a few Blacks on through from slavery to the freedom to be loyal man, power for a crown expansion man, manacled to the company town and second-hand scansion. Oh, James Douglass, did you ever see yourself in us? Did you ever stop in your war versus the wilderness and think, we?
Thank you, Lesley.
Yeah, that was pretty scathing. I know there were people that wanted his statue, any places that he had a statue taken down. But that poem, and I don't think anyone has put that poem with information about why. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and the whole book, like I say, the poems are all about the history of the Black influx from California into BC.
Yes, over in Victoria City. Last year they had an exhibition. I don't know whether they're doing it this year. So many things that people plan to have live. They've gone up and down between, is it live or is it not? Some things that people expected to have this year. But there is a museum over there where there are pictures about these 600 families, 600 people that came over from California. And so much, even in, for me being an African American and hearing about and experiencing Black history in Canada, we have heard so much about the Underground Railroad going to Ontario, and very little about what happened here in British Columbia. So it's definitely something worth going over to visit and helping people to learn more about. So again, say the name of the book and put it in the chat so we can have it in our notes about the meeting if people want to find that book.
Yes, it's called 49th Parallel Psalm, and it's by Wayde Compton. It's Arsenal Pub Press, Vancouver, BC. And I'll put that information also in the chat.
Do you know if that community is the one that ended up in Hogan's Alley?
Oh,
No.
Hogan's Alley is also a subject of some of his poetry in the book, but Hogan's Alley was in Vancouver.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that influx of 600 people, if they eventually settled in Hogan's Alley.
Well, some of them may. This was much earlier, of course.
No, only a small number, but really a lot of there's a festival every year in July that's a festival of people of African descent, and they had huge bulletin boards that showed the Strathcona neighborhood, and it's again the porters needing a place for lodging. There's that building that is Pacific, the train station. That was a building that was housing. Initially, there were apartments there, and so as they had residences there, the area began to develop. Musicians came over. Ray Charles played here. A lot of people played here, and the area was developed. But when they put that viaduct through, it displaced all those businesses without creating another area that was of Black culture. So that is more of that was related to the travel and just the news. The Black porters were telling people in the States how good and what opportunities were there, and as well people coming on the train and seeing that area. People put their money together. They helped develop the area. It wasn't a government development. The businesses that developed were along families putting their money together, and some things, there was a financial union. It would be a really good, there's a movement now to have a Black cultural center, similar to the Italian Cultural Center, where a lot of things that people have as private holdings and private pictures can be put into a place so that everyone can see how much was contributed to the development of culture and art in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a thing called call and response poems, and call and response poems are linked a lot back to some of the African work songs or call and response. And so there's a poem that I've written around one historical person named Mary McLeod Bethune. Does anyone know who Mary McLeod Bethune is?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay, well, with this little poem, you'll learn something about her. But the call and response is going to be when I'll say Mary. When I say Mary, you say McLeod Bethune. Let's do a test run. Mary.
McLeod
Bethune.
McLeod Bethune. Okay. Mary.
McLeod Bethune.
Mary.
McLeod Bethune.
Mary McLeod Bethune was a woman totally to her time attuned, was a woman totally to our people's needs attuned. Education was her marching hymn. She moved across the country from end to end, gathering support for her school after a lifetime of teaching. To many, it sounded like she was preaching. Mary
McLeod Bethune.
Mary
McLeod Bethune.
Blessed to have a formal education, she decided to stay within this nation, serve lunch to the homeless, counsel the poor, got a Sunday school going, even sang behind the prison door. I'm talking about Mary McLeod
Bethune.
Mary
McLeod Bethune.
July 10th, 1875, gave rise to a Southern Carolina star. Before 1955, she helped break the color bar, had lunch with presidents, kept her name among the current events, held to God's unfailing hand with faith, building schools and hospitals under grace. I'm talking about Mary
McLeod Bethune.
Mary
McLeod Bethune.
Mary McLeod Bethune forged a link with Cookman College, made Bethune-Cookman an institute for lifetime knowledge, made women's organizations look beyond class and privilege, gained a seat on Truman's Committee of 12, had the National Council of Negro Women into politics delve. Under Coolidge, Hoover, and Roosevelt, child welfare, education, employment, and housing were issues over which she worked up a sweat. Mary McLeod Bethune, may we only with you stay attuned. I'm talking about Mary
McLeod
Bethune.
Mary
McLeod Bethune.
Thank you. That was initially I did that at a women's program, but I've done it at schools. I've done it in a boys' maximum security prison, at churches, and now I've done it with the Powered by Age power people.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
That was wonderful. Yeah, wonderful, Charlotte.
And so I had written, but now I'll save to do it on the 23rd. I had written a call and response poem about Neill. So I'll wait to hear that later on his birthday. Neill has a poem that he wants to share.
Well, I wrote this on New Year's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, I've known how difficult making resolutions is to keep resolutions, and I learned about doing intentions. So I did an intention on New Year's Day that I would like to share with you. And the poem is called Never Give Up. Life is but a dream. No matter how rough the road, no matter how stormy the sea, no matter how dark the day, you are not the experience. The love of the universe is always there. Never say die, never give up. You are not this body. This body is your beliefs. Dream a different dream. Dream a constant, healthy body. Meditate peace and sit quiet in stillness. You are your dreams. Dream healthy. Never say die. Never give up. If life brings you struggles, then struggle. Live the adventure of the struggle. Don't be attached to the outcome. Nothing is either good nor bad. All is just what you make it. All is your dream. Love and compassion heals all. Never say die, and never give up. End of poem.
Wow, what a great mantra. Never say die, never give up. What a way to go. So I'm going to delve in and see what else I might have that we can share next week. We will be looking forward to having more interviews. I want to remind people to look at our poweredbyage.com website. Go on the SPINS. SPINS stands for, who can tell me what SPINS stands for on our website?
Stories, poems, interviews, and
novelties. It's the unusual things people come up with. So, and so there is an ongoing opportunity. You know, people, if you participate in our podcast, it's not just anyone calls up and say, "Will you record a spin for me?" But the idea is that through participation, we have more than 44 people that at some time or the other have participated by coming live into the Zoom. When we were meeting physically at the 411 Center, we were having twice a month people come, and sometimes we'd have 35 to 45 people in the room, and then we would go into small groups. So we are thankful for I think two of our longest running people, Neill and Lesley might have been on it, our original one, when we first shifted to Zoom, when everything shut down, the podcast program was the one program that was able to continue. And we are reaching and getting people from across the country who are either sending email or calling or saying, I've watched the program, or sent in notes of things that they want to hear us cover. So we do have in the works one coming up on how do seniors make money and how do seniors help others make money. Entrepreneurs, we usually hear from the side of seniors don't have very much money, they need help with this and that, but there are some seniors who have got businesses or who have things where they are hiring other seniors or contracting with them. So we're going to have that as one of our upcoming presentations, as well as a presentation by our accountant on what you need to get ready when it's time for coming in to get your taxes done. People don't want to hear about, I left this at home, I've got that at home. When you come to get your taxes done, they want you to have everything all together. So you'll be hearing more details on how to do that. So without further ado, I'll say goodbye to you. See you again. You can listen to us again anywhere you get your podcast.
Never say die.
Never say die. Thank you.
Never give up. Thank you.
Then we could craft a tune for that and we'll be able to sing it.
You know.